For the pink colored cowboy hat, I used Arbor Rose, and that's Impeccable yarn by Loops and Threads. I also used the same soft pink that I used for the tongue for the hat. For some of the accessories, this is the craft wire that I used. It's the 20 gauge. It's by Doris, craft designer, 20 gauge wire, 15 yards, copper wire. For the emblem that goes on the hat, I used a hole punch, and I also used self-laminating sheets, and this one is by Swingline GBC. This one comes with a pack of 50 self-seal. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. This is what the sheets look like, the laminating sheets, and you're going to use one that you're going to use half of, depending on how many that you're making. So I used my printer to print up the design on a piece of paper, and I'm using a star. I'm also using the bolt, electric bolt, and then of course the marine emblem. I've already sealed them in my self-laminating seal, and I also cut out cardboard, and then on the back has some duct tape on it. And your cardboard's going to be slightly smaller than the emblem, and you're going to seal them. Here's the back of the cardboard with the duct tape, and then the front logo, and I've already sealed it. For the accessories, you're going to need your J crochet hook or 6mm crochet hook, as well as a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. We're going to start with the main color that you want for your hat, and you're going to take your yarn and just loop it over on itself. Then take your crochet hook and just go right through the loop and hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb. Then you're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for your slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain. I'm just going to do the first 4 with you, but you're going to want to complete a chain of 60. You just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish your chain of 60, and then come back. After you complete your chain of 60, you see I have a chain of 60, long chain with 60 stitches. Then you're going to hold that last stitch with your middle finger and your thumb, and then you're going to make a chain of 3 for the next row. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. You just yarn over, go into the 4th chain from the hook. You're going to bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, 2 loops remaining, yarn over and then go through 2. Then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. So I'm just going to do a couple with you. Just yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, 2 loops remaining, yarn over and go through 2. Go ahead and finish making 1 double crochet into every stitch back across, and then come back. This is how your work should look, and now you want to join it into a circle. Make sure you don't twist it, and then just fold it up on itself to form a circle. And then you're going to take the top stitch of the first chain 3 that you made. Just go right into that top stitch of the first chain 3. You're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then you join it into a circle. Now, go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next round. But first, you're going to get your tapestry needle and you're going to take that loose yarn in that you started with, because you're going to tie a knot and join the bottom together. So you take your tapestry needle and you go into the bottom stitch of that first chain 3 that you made and join the bottom together. And then you just tie a knot. And I'm just going to go through twice just to make sure it's nice and secure, and we can bury the loose yarn in later. So now you have joined the bottom rim. Then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch around and then come back. After you finish your last double crochet for the round, you're going to make a slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. So you're going to take your crochet hook, go into that top stitch of the first chain 3 for the round, and then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. And then you join the round. Now you're going to chain 3 and start the next round. So you're going to do that until you've completed a total of 4 rounds. So far we did 1, 2. So you need 2 more of 1 double crochet into every stitch around, and then come back and I'll show you the next step. This is how your work should look after completing 4 rounds of 1 double crochet into every stitch. Now we're going to start our decrease rounds, our double crochet decrease rounds. The first thing that you're going to do is just chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to make 1 double crochet into 6 stitches. So this first chain 3 counts as 1. 2. 'So I have 1 double crochet into 6 stitches. Now I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet decrease. So you're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2 loops. You have 2 loops remaining, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. You have 4 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and then go through 3 for a double crochet decrease. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning and then come back. I'm back to the beginning, and I had 4 stitches before I got back to the start. Just make 1 double crochet into each stitch. And then you're going to make a slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3. Just yarn over and turn the hook upside down and go through both loops for a slip stitch. And for this decrease round, you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into the next 5. Actually, a total of 5. So this counts as 1. This is 2. 3, 4, and 5. So 1 double crochet into each stitch, and you have a total of 5, including that first chain 3. Then you're going to make your decrease stitch. So you just yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 3 for a double crochet decrease. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. Then for your next round, you're going to make 1 double crochet into a total of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you make your double crochet decrease and repeat that all the way around back to the beginning. Then for the next round, you're going to do 1 double crochet into 3 stitches and then your double crochet decrease and repeat that pattern all the way around. Then 1 double crochet into 2 stitches and then your decrease stitch and repeat that all the way around. Then for your last decrease round, you're going to make 1 double crochet into 1 stitch and then make your decrease stitch and repeat that all the way around. This is how your work should look so far, and we still have an opening at the top that we're going to slip stitch closed. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to skip a stitch, skip the next stitch, take your crochet hook, go under the next stitch, then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. So skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. So skip a stitch, then yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook, and you're going to do this until your hat is closed. And you can see how it's making the hole smaller and smaller as you make your slip stitches around. And then come back when you're finished slip stitching the hat closed. And I'll show you what to do next. Then after you finish your last slip stitch, then you're going to finish off, just yarn over and then pull the yarn through the loop, and then just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. I've already cut mine. And then once you finish cutting it, just take your tapestry needle and put it onto the loose yarn end. Then you just take and go right through the area you tied off your knot and bring the loose yarn end into the inside of the hat. Go ahead and set this aside for now. And then take your yarn. We're going to make the rim of the hat. So you're going to start with your chain of 60 again. So you make your slip knot the same way. And then make another chain of 60. And then come back. After you finish your chain of 60, then you're going to get your craft wire. And I really like this spooled up craft wire. It's like a spool of thread, and it has an area here where you can put your craft wire over so that it doesn't get tangled. And you're going to pull some craft wire off and measure it alongside your chain of 60, and you're going to want it a couple of inches longer. I would say about 4 inches longer than your chain. You can always cut it shorter if you need to, and then what I like about this craft wire is you can just cut it. Then you just take the end of your craft wire that you cut and then just put it right into that slit that they have at the top. That way it doesn't come loose. And it just keeps it spooled nicely. Then you're going to take your craft wire and you're going to put it right through the loop of your last stitch of your chain of 60. about a couple inches past, and then just kind of loop it on the end. That way it doesn't come out as you work. Then you're going to take your crochet hook, put it right through the same loop that you just put the craft wire into, and then you're going to make a chain of 3. One, 2, 3. And that's going to count as your first double crochet for the next round. And then you're just going to make a double crochet. You're going to alternate 1 double crochet and 2 double crochet into every stitch. So my first chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. So I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to go right behind your craft wire and bring up a loop and make your double crochet. And then you can see how I'm covering my craft wire as I work. So I'm going to go into the next stitch, yarn over, go into the next stitch, go behind the craft wire, bring up a loop, make my double crochet, and then in the second stitch I'm going to make 2 double crochet in the same stitch, and I'm working behind my craft wire so that I'm burying it as I work. And you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way to the end and then come back. This is how my work looks so far, and I have 10 stitches remaining. And what I'm going to do at this point is just take my craft wire, make sure that your work stays even, and then you're going to take and measure out, lay down your last 10 stitches so you can see how much more craft wire that you're going to require, and then you're going to take your craft wire going to measure it out how much is still remaining, and then you're going to take and wrap the craft wire around itself. The ends of the craft wire until it's completely wrapped around. And you're going to do that on both sides, and you can move the rest of the double crochets down at that point because you know what size that you need, and then just continue to wrap it around until the ends are completely wrapped around the wire. It won't come loose and it won't poke anybody. And that's how mine looks so far. And then I'm going to finish crocheting the last few stitches. And then once you're done, come back and I'll show you how to join, slip stitch and join the ends. Then you should be back to where you started, and you can move your double crochets around evenly if you want to space them out. Then you're going to take your crochet hook, go into that top stitch of the first chain 3 that you made and just make a slip stitch to join, and then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle for the bottom loose yarn end, and you're going to join the bottom end together and just tie a knot. Then you're going to take your hat, and I have my right side facing out, and here's the wrong side with the loose yarn end on the inside. Just take your rim and you're going to sew the inside of the rim to the hat. Just take the side of the hat with the loose yarn end and then tie it to the inside of the rim. And then you're going to take and sew the inside of the rim to the hat. Just take the same colored yarn and your tapestry needle, and you're just going to take the stitch of the hat and the stitch of the rim and sew the ends together evenly all the way around. You can tie a knot to one of your loose yarn ends. And then you just take and sew the two pieces together. All the way back to the beginning. And this is what it will look like on the other side. Go ahead and finish sewing the rim to the hat, and then come back. This is what your hat should look like so far after sewing on the rim. And you're going to make your drill sergeant hat and your cowboy hat the same way up until this point. So here is the drill sergeant hat, and I used the Red Heart Super Saver, and the color is medium time for the drill sergeant hat. And then for the cowboy hat, if you like the brown color, I used Craft Smart yarn, value yarn, and this color is just brown. So it's just a regular brown color, a dark brown. The other thing that I did for the hats is I put a strip on the inside with the craft wire, and in the front and in the back of the hat. I'm going to show you how to do that now. You do the same thing with the cowboy hat. So I have a strip on the inside with the craft wire. And for the cowboy hat, it's optional. You could do it in the front and the back. On this cowboy hat, I only did it on the front, but I'm going to show you how to do the front and the back for the pink cowboy hat. The first thing you do is take the same colored yarn of whatever hat that you're making and fold it over to form a loop, and then put the crochet hook through the loop and hold the base through middle finger and thumb. You're going to make a chain of 5 after you make your slip knot. So the first one is a slip knot, and then make your chain of 5. Here's my chain of 5. Then I'm going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So go into the second chain from the hook, bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet, and then you're going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch back across. Then you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to make a single crochet all the way back across. So here you can see where there's a little upslope. You're not going to go into the base of that first chain 1 that you made. You're going to go into the next stitch over and make a single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and then make a single crochet. You're going to keep doing that until you've completed 10 rows of 1 single crochet into every stitch. Chain 1 to turn. So go ahead, you're going to need 4 of these. 1 single crochet into every stitch for 10 rows. Then go ahead and finish off and then make 4 of them. Mine have 14 rows of 1 single crochet into every stitch. Once you've finished your 4 strips, then you're going to take your craft wire and just cut a loop, a small amount that you're going to loop together that will fit inside, in between the strips. Once you size it, just take and wrap the wire around each other, the ends around, loop into a circle and wrap it around just like I'm doing here. And then you're going to take and squish it together a little bit and put it right on top of one of the strips. And then you're going to take the other strip and lay it right on top of it. And then sew the 2 ends of the strip together, sandwiching the wire in between. So you just take your tapestry needle and get the same colored yarn, or if you left a long end of yarn for sewing, then you would use that, and you would just take and sew all around the sides, sandwiching the craft wire in between. And do that for both. Do it for your other 2 as well, and then come back. After you finish sewing the craft wire into the center of your 2 strips, then you're going to take one of your strips, as well as your tapestry needle and the same colored yarn. Then take the strip and you want to sew one into the back of the hat and also on the very opposite end for the front of the hat. You just take your strip and just place it right along the base of the hat where you sewed the rim on. And it's going to go straight up and down. Then you just take your tapestry needle and then sew it along the edge. So I'm just taking and sewing right along the edge. I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. So go ahead and just sew right along the edge all the way around to the top, and then across the top, and then back down the side and along the bottom. And you're going to do that the same thing on the opposite end with your other strip. So I have 1 strip sewn in, and you can also bury your loose yarn ends as you work, and you just take your loose yarn end on your tapestry needle and just weave it through your work. And then you just cut it. Now I have both strips sewn into the front and the back of the hat, and my hat looks like this. And at this point, you're going to design your hat the way that you want. If you want the cowboy hat, you're going to fold the 2 sides together. That way you have a little dip right through the center of the hat, and then here's the front of the hat and the back of the hat. But for the drill sergeant hat, you're going to pinch it so that you have the 2 center. You're going to sew the same way, but you're going to have the front ridge, the back ridge, and then you have your side ridges. And then after you finish your ridges, then you're going to sew along the sides. So here's the front of the hat, and then you have the little side ridge. You have another side ridge, and then you have your back ridges. And that's how you would sew for the drill sergeant hat. Now for the cowboy hat, I have the front ridge here where I sewed the strip. So here's the front, and then the back is here. So I'm going to poof it right down the center, and I'm going to form a ridge on the sides. Then you're going to get your tapestry needle in the same colored yarn, and for the cowboy hat, the ridge is about a couple rows of the double crochet, and then you're just going to go through, make your pouch in the center as deep as you want. I'm making mine about 2 rows of a ridge, and then I'm just going to take my yarn, leave enough for burying your loose yarn end, and you're just going to go in and out, sewing along that ridge so it doesn't come undone. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot. And I'm just going to sew a couple of stitches to hold the ridge. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side so that the ridge will stay. So I only sewed along about three stitches, and then I'm going to go back to where I had tied my knot. And then I'm going to tie another knot. I'm going to cut a long loose yarn end, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Then once you're finished sewing the ridges of the hat, just take your loose yarn ends and bring them right in to the wrong side of the hat and bury them into the wrong side of the hat. So I just take it on the wrong side and just weave it through the inside, going a couple of different directions, and then just cut the loose yarn end on the inside. That's how you make the ridges for the cowboy hat. And I'm going to show you again for the drill sergeant hat, the ridges aren't as deep, so you can see the ridge is about where you sew for the ridge. It's about 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters. And again, you make your ridges where here's the back. Let me find the front. So here's the front of the hat, and here's the back of the hat. And the ridge goes from the front to the back, and then you have the side ridges, and then you have, here's the front, and then you have the bottom portion of the ridge here, and then here's the other side, and you can see how it forms kind of like a triangle indent. That's what you want, and you want 4 of them, 2 in the front and 2 in the back for your hat. And then for the ridge of the hat is a little bit different. So for the drill sergeant hat, you're going to make the ear holes, and then you have 1 more row of the double crochet. So I'm going to show you while making the cowboy hat where you, if you're making the drill sergeant hat, where you would make the differences. If you're making the drill sergeant hat, you're going to make sure that you put yarn markers where the ears are going to go. So you can put your hat on your dog and you can mark where your ears are on the dog to make sure that it fits appropriately. For mine, I had 27 stitches for the back of the hat, and then I spaced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches in between each of your yarn markers, just like this. So now, for the cowboy hat, what you're going to do is you're going to join your crochet hook, and here I'm in the back of the hat, so I'm going to join my color. So just take and hook your crochet hook, chain 1, and then tie a knot. And I'm going to bury my loose yarn end as I work. So you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet, and this is going to be an increase round. So you're going to make 1 double crochet in the first stitch and then 2 double crochet into the second stitch. So this first chain 3 is going to count as my first double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the second stitch, go behind my loose yarn end, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. And then I'm going to make 1 more double crochet into the same stitch. And you're going to alternate that all the way until you get to your first yarn marker. And then I'm going to show you the difference between the cowboy hat and the drill sergeant hat. So far the cowboy hat is worked the same way. 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the second stitch. You're going to repeat that pattern all the way until your first yarn marker, and then come back. This is how your work should look so far, and if it ruffles up a little bit, that's okay. If you're making the drill sergeant hat, this is where you're going to make, it's going to be a little bit different. If you're making the cowboy hat, you would just keep going, alternating 1 double crochet and 2 double crochet. For the cowboy hat, you're going to make a double crochet into the stitch that has the yarn marker. I'm going to go ahead and remove that yarn marker, and I'm going to make 1 double crochet into that stitch. And then I'm going to chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have my chain of 12. Then I'm going to make a double crochet into the stitch that has my yarn marker. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go into that stitch. I'm going to bring up a loop. Now you should have 3 loops on your hook. So you're going to yarn over and go through 2, and then you have 2 loops on the hook, then you yarn over and go through 2. And that's how you make the loop for the ear. And you're going to do the same thing when you get to your other yarn marker. So that's how you make the drill sergeant hat. But I'm making a cowboy hat, so I'm going to undo this and finish the cowboy hat. So then you should have the loops for both of the ears for the drill sergeant hat. And the very last step for the drill sergeant hat, here is the back. You can see how the back has just the 2 rows. And then in the front of the hat, you're going to make 1 more row, and in that you're going to alternate the last row. You're just going to join your crochet hook to that second row, and then you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to alternate 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochet all the way across the front of the hat. And then you're going to finish off, and then you're going to sew that loose yarn end to the ear loop on both sides, and then bury your loose yarn ends, and you're done with the drill sergeant hat. For the second round, you're going to want to make 1 double crochet into 2 stitches, and then make 2 double crochet into the 3rd stitch. And then repeat that pattern all the way around back to the beginning. So 1 double crochet into the 1st stitch, 1 double crochet into the 2nd stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the 3rd stitch. And that's for the cowboy hat and for the drill sergeant hat, except for the drill sergeant hat, I show you how to make the loop for the ears. Then your drill sergeant hat, you have the loops for the ears, and in the back you're going to leave it finished with just the 2 rounds, but in the front you're going to make 1 more row, but just in the front of the hat. So you're going to join into the 1st stitch of the previous row and chain 3, and then you're going to make 1 double crochet into 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochet into the 3rd stitch, and you're going to repeat that pattern all across the front of the hat. And then when you finish off, you're going to take that loose yarn end that you finished off with and sew it to the loop that you made for the ear, and you're going to sew it on both sides, and then that's how your front of the hat is going to look like for the drill sergeant hat. Then you're going to take and make a slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then for your last round on the cowboy hat, you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch around. So just 1 double crochet in every stitch around, and then you can finish off. Slip stitch and then finish off. After your 3rd round and you get back to where you started, you just make your slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 and yarn over and just bring the yarn through both loops on the hook, and then you're going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And so far your hat looks like this. Now we're going to make the strip that goes around the base of the hat. I'm using light pink for mine, but you can use whatever color you want for your cowboy hat. The first thing you're going to do is just fold it over to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, put it right through the loop, and hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb, and then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for a slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain of 80. I'm just going to make 4 of them with you because you've made several chains now. So go ahead and finish making your chain of 80 and then come back. After you make your chain of 80, then you're going to hold that last stitch with your middle finger and your thumb, and then you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next row. Then you're going to yarn over, and you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you are holding. Bring up a loop, and then make your double crochet. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across, and then come back. So I'm going to make 1 more with you. This is how your work should look so far. And for the drill sergeant hat, you would just go ahead and finish off and just pull enough yarn through to sew onto the drill sergeant hat. And you just place it right above the rim and at the base of the hat and just sew it in place all around the hat. The dog collar is made the same way as you made the rim of the hat, or the design that goes on the hat, except for the collar you start with the chain of 50, the dog collar, and the design on the hat started with the chain of 80. So the dog collar is made the same way, except you start with a chain of 50, and then when you get to the end for the dog collar, you're going to make a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to turn your work, and you're not going to work into the base of where you made the chain 3. You're going to work in the next stitch over, and then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across, and then finish off, and you'll be done with your dog collar. Now your dog collar, mine was a chain of 50, but you'll want to measure it. Once you make your chain, make sure that it's not too big or too small for the dog that you made, and you can change the size of your initial chain, and that will be the size of your dog collar. So if you're making the dog collar, it's made the same way, except your initial chain is different, and you're also doing 2 rows of 1 double crochet into every stitch, and then you can go ahead and finish off, and then I'll show you how to sew the dog collar on your dog. Now for the cowboy hat, I added a design with the black yarn. So when you're finished making your double crochet all the way to the end, you're going to take your black yarn and hook it, or whatever color you want for your design for your cowboy hat, and then just chain 1, and then you're going to tie a knot, and you can go ahead and cut your pink yarn. And then tie your knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 2 with your black yarn and turn your work. And then you're not going to work in that first stitch where you made your chain 2. You're going to work in the next stitch over. Go ahead and yarn over, go into the next stitch over, go under your loose yarn ends or behind your loose yarn ends, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through all 3 for a half double crochet. And you're going to make 1 half double crochet into every stitch back across. I'm going to do one more with you. So you yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 for a half double crochet. And you're going to make 1 half double crochet into every stitch back across and then come back. This is how your work should look when you're done. Then after you made your last half double crochet in the last stitch, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew it onto your hat. To make the buckle for your collar, you're just going to take whatever yarn color that you want for your buckle to be. I'm going to use the light pink. Just take and fold your yarn over on itself to form a loop, and then just yarn over and pull the yarn through to form your slip knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to hold that last stitch with your middle finger and thumb, and for the next row you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next row. Now you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. And then after you make the last double crochet in the last stitch, you're going to make a chain of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After you make the chain of 8, you're going to turn your work, and you're going to slip stitch into the opposite top stitch. So the top stitch on the opposite side. Go ahead and make your slip stitch. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the buckle onto the collar. Now you're going to get the decoration for your cowboy hat, and take your tapestry needle and the long end that you left for sewing, or the same colored yarn. So you're going to use your black yarn or whatever color you used. I'm going to sew with my black yarn over the black yarn, and then the pink yarn over the pink yarn. And you're just going to take the decoration and just place it at the base of the top of the hat and then over the rim. And then you're just going to take your tapestry needle and just sew it in place all around the hat. And then come back. Make sure that you have the front of the hat with the band, the center of the band, because at the back of the hat is where it may overlap a little bit. So you want that part that overlaps to be in the back of the hat. And this is what the cowboy hat should look like so far. After you have the strips sewn on to the hat, then you can take and straighten the front and then fold up the sides of the hat to sew the sides of the hat up. Take your tapestry needle with the same colored yarn, and then you're going to fold up. This is the front of the hat. You're going to fold up the side of the hat. Take your tapestry needle, and from the inside you're going to come through the top row of that bottom double crochet row with your tapestry needle, and then just come through. Make sure you leave enough loose yarn in on the inside to bury into your work, and then you're just going to put a couple of stitches in, and then I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. And you're just going to, over 3 or 4 stitches on that row, you're just going to sew the rim up on the side. And you're going to do that on both sides of the hat. And then come back. And that is your cowboy hat. You could stop there, or you could put the emblem on. I'm going to show you how to do that next. Then I just cut out around the emblem, and then I did hole punches all around with my hole punch. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle with the same colored yarn. You're going to position the emblem on the front of your hat the way you want it. And then you just take your tapestry needle and go through the holes that you created with the hole punch and just sew it in place. And you're just going to go in and out along the sides of the hole punch and sew it in place. Then, after you make the emblem for the hat, we're going to make the ties for the hat. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you're doing the ties is put a yarn marker onto both sides of the hat where the dog's ears are. Then, with the color yarn that you want for the ties, you're going to go right where you put the yarn marker and take your yarn and bring it through that side of the hat. You're going to chain one and then tie a knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 45. So a chain of 45 on both sides, and then come back. Then you should have two ties, one on each side where the ears of the dog lies, and then take the loose yarn in that you had, pull it snugly down to form a nice knot, and then you're just going to cut that loose yarn in, but leave about 1.5 centimeters on the end, and do that on both sides. And that is how you make your hat. To sew the collar on, just take your tapestry needle and the same colored yarn, and you're going to take the collar and put it around the dog's neck and sew it in place on the back. Just take the long end that you left for sewing and just sew the two ends together. And then you can tie a knot with your loose yarn end. And then I'm going to take my loose yarn ends and bring them down towards the bottom of the collar. Just weave it right through the back where I sewed it. And you can either cut the loose yarn ends now, or this part is optional where you can put your name tag on. So I'm going to show you how to put the name tag on. So this is the engravable name tag I have, and it also comes with a little loop. After you get the little loop onto the name tag, then you can take and tie it onto the collar. And then I just take the loose yarn end, bring it through to the other side of the collar. Then you have your name tag sewn on, and you can turn it around so that it's on the front of the dog. And then once you have it positioned on the front of the dog, then you can sew your buckle onto the side. And this is what my buckle looks like after I sewed it on to the collar.